Selina Kyle returns to some of her old ways in Catwalk. While there is a fair amount of action in it, this episode felt like it focused more on the Catwoman character and her own inner conflict. Her journey up until this point in the show and her contemplations on how she wants to live her life take center stage. Selina Kyle is the guest of Bruce Wayne at the opening of a wildlife exhibit at a Gotham museum. As she looks upon the Black Leopard display, she reminisces on her time as Catwoman, her dualist relationship with the Batman, and how she was forced to give up her life as a costume thief. Missing her evenings as a child of the night and admitting to Bruce that she often feels tempted to return to it, Selina feels very out of place among Wayne's rich friends. When Veronica Vreeland greets Bruce and his date, she remembers Kyle from another time they met and shows her the museum's conservation hall, thinking Selina will be impressed with its dedication to preserving endangered species. But Kyle quips that Veronica's grandfather, who the hall was built in honor of, was forced into the conservation business because he was ruthless in killing any nearby wildlife. Thus, he'd have nothing left to hunt if the animals weren't saved. This rude outburst causes Selina to leave, but she's picked up outside by a car containing the ventriloquist and his dangerous Scarface persona. Scarface is looking to cut a deal with her to steal a few diamonds inside the museum, claiming it's a foolproof plan and she won't be caught. They'd split the profits 50-50. Kyle agrees, and Catwoman finds her way inside the museum that evening. In the middle of the heist, Scarface turns on her, hoping she'll take the fall while his men get what he was really after inside one of the exhibits. Catwoman evades police custody anyway and returns home where she's confronted by Batman. Lying to him that she was trying to stop a burglary to earn some points with the cops, they return to the museum to inform the authorities of her story. However, that's where Catwoman's morally ambiguous nature starts to take over. Paul Dini wrote this episode solo, and Boyd Kirkland directed it. Interestingly, this was the first full Catwoman installment that Dini penned for the series. He wrote for her in the classic Almost Got Him, but she wasn't nearly as big of a presence as she was in Catwalk. Selina is basically the main character here. He presents her as more introspective than we had seen previously. This story also sort of sets Catwoman back to basics after a long-term arc that saw her reform a bit. Dini also seemed to like placing Selina on conveyor belts with spinning blades at the end. As for Boyd Kirkland, this was the second time he directed a Catwoman-centric episode, his first being Season 1's Cat Scratch Fever. I think this is the clear winner among those two. The first couple minutes are an exaggerated recap of Selina's journey so far. It's almost dreamlike as we watch her in the character's most natural state before she met her match in Batman. We then see her on trial at a court hearing, which was a story point in Cat Scratch Fever. She's been repressing her inner nature for quite a while now, and it's starting to come to a head. Credit to Dong Yang for animating a very sleek little sequence. It catches us up on who Catwoman was and where she had been, while also managing to throw in a few surreal visuals. Scarface makes his return here in a solid outing for him and the ventriloquist. There's no deep psychological stuff with them this time, but that's to be expected since they aren't the main focus. Scarface's interactions with Selina across this episode are pretty great. They have a fun antagonistic chemistry.
You gotta be kidding.
What's she laughing at? My fly ain't open, is it? No, sir. So what's the gag?
Oh, come on, you know. What's the gag?
Can it, sister? I thought I saw a booty tat.
Spoilers ahead for the climax and rest of the story. After seeing that the taxidermied extinct animals were stolen out of their display case, Selina lets slip a bit more info than she should. Batman picks up on it, and she runs, escaping the museum to go after Scarface. Being one step ahead, the Dark Knight placed a transmitter on Selina's cat, Isis, and follows them to a lumber mill where Scarface is trying to sell off the rare animals for a hefty price. Catwoman is sighted while there, and a fight ensues. Batman steps in to even the odds, which eventually results in the Scarface dummy being crushed by falling logs and then burned thanks to Kyle. The Caped Crusader then confronts Catwoman about her involvement in this scheme from the beginning.
I have to be who I am. I realize now I can't change that. Like I told someone else tonight. It's just the cat in me.
To cover her getaway, Catwoman throws one of the extinct animals near the fire below. She taunts Batman that it's the last of its kind.
Will you take me in or let it become extinct again? The lady or the tiger, darling?
Batman saves the carcass from destruction, which lets Catwoman go free to return to her true self, as lonely as that might be.
I am the cat who walks by herself.
That line was repeated a few times across the episode. It's supposedly a reference to the English writer Rudyard Kipling, specifically his story of a similar name. In the same way, Catwoman's line of "the lady or the tiger" may have been meant to allude to Frank R. Stockton's short story, which shares the line as its title. But I think a bigger reason this was in there was because that dialogue was used in the Adam West Batman show by Julie Newmar's Catwoman.
The lady or the tiger?
While we saw Catwoman revert to her self-described true nature, Bruce/Batman was portrayed as being heartbroken by the end. They had been through a lot together by this point, and you can tell he was hoping she would have made a different choice. But this is their whole dynamic, isn't it? Always just missing each other on seeing eye to eye. I like Catwalk as a story that depicts Selina struggling with who she wants to be. There are some very strong scenes tucked inside, with some memorable character interactions and images too. It's far from one of the best the series has to offer, but it's worth a recommendation, especially if you're a fan of this character's complexities.
What's wrong, ventriloquist? Cat got your tongue?